introduce you to our audience?
Great.
Yeah. Jennifer Warfield is a seasoned certified financial planner with over 30 years of experience in the financial service industry. She is a founder of Lightbulb Movements LLC, a coaching and development firm dedicated to empowering women's personal and professional growth. Jennifer also serves as an adjunct professor for the American College of Financial Services Chartered Leadership Fellow CLF program. Additionally, she leads product strategy at the AI startup 𝐕𝐈𝐑𝐓𝔂 AI. Her diverse expertise combines financial planning, leadership development, and innovative technology. That was a really great bio. You have done a really great job, Jennifer, and the stage is all yours.
Thank you very much. I am thrilled to be here today and appreciate the opportunity to share my message about hustle to purpose, redefining midlife success for women. But before I get into that, I want to tell you a little bit of a story. It's about being a woman in midlife. This is a picture of me. This is me in my successful career from about 5 or 6 years ago. And this was a selfie that was taken of me on the road. And I was in a hotel room because I did an awful lot of traveling. And I was on the phone, on a laptop, in my pajamas, in my robe, hustling, working after hours as usual. Um, I had a busy schedule, an overextended social life, and was maximizing every bit of time that I had. This is a snapshot of my flight schedule. This is my flight schedule for 3 months. This is not a complete version of my flight schedule, but this is a snapshot of what my flight schedule would look like. So as you would expect, I was a bit busy. Um, During one of these trips, I attended a conference where I was able to hear a speaker, and her name was Caitlin Donovan. She had written a book called Bounce Back Ability. And during that presentation, she talked about burnout. And as she was reviewing her presentation, she was ticking off a number of indicators that you may, in fact, be in the throes of burnout. And one by one, I was recognizing each one of these indicators. So, as the maximizer I was, you might expect that I tackled that with gusto to try to solve the problem. But unfortunately, I did not. I just doubled down on what I was doing to the point where I was in very real danger of meeting that burnout. I experienced some very significant challenges and recognized that the high level of achievement and productivity that I was accustomed to experiencing was diminishing. My returns were diminishing, and so I started to realize that I needed to take some action. And what I actually needed to do was to take some inaction. So I took some time off and did nothing. And after I did nothing, I wondered about what it is that I wanted to do next. So let me tell you a little bit about that. My name is Jennifer Warfield. I welcome you to connect with me. My LinkedIn QR code is there. Please feel free to connect with me. As you might expect, I am no longer in that high achieving, high hustle career. As much as I loved it and as much as I experienced a tremendous amount of success in it, I realized that it was time to make a move. And so now I am the founder of Lightbulb Moments. I am also working in product strategy for Spyglass AI. So what I am now doing is I'm saying yes to a variety of things that I never had the bandwidth to do before. After my 30 years in financial services, I have now pivoted to a more purpose driven direction. So now I work with women and organizations who really want to move towards purpose, values, productivity, and growth in a way that doesn't make you feel like you want to just collapse. I wrote an article, and based on a number of great scientific studies, as well as some of my own personal observations and interviews. So, special thanks to all of those folks who contributed to that article, as well as some of the findings that I'm talking about here today. So, why are we having this conversation? What if success isn't the summit? What if it isn't the end, but rather a fork in the road? For me, it was about reclaiming purpose. It wasn't about starting over, but it was about moving in a different direction. And as I began to explore that direction, I found more and more women like me were doing similar things. Women like me were experiencing the hustle hangover. For years, we had been told about leaning in, breaking the glass ceiling, having it all, and of course, the ever present work life balance. And of course, that work life balance is never a true balance because it can never be 50-50. So, people are starting to recognize the true cost of constantly striving for success. Not that achievement is bad, not that working hard towards a goal is bad, but the pressure of constant striving and constant hustle creates overwork, underfulfillment, and ultimately disappointment. The truth is, burnout impacts women a lot more than men. And interestingly enough, midlife women is an area that's woefully understudied. Out of all of the life stages of human beings, midlife women is one of the least examined. And so some of the studies that I'm going to cite today, some of the things, the studies that I've read and explored are just a few that of the small number that are out there. So it's an area that's ripe for exploration, whether it's physiological or sociological. This is an area that really begs for additional um, uh, educational research. But for women, burnout is impacting them across industries, across jobs, across vocations. Midlife brings an emotional shift for women to the point where a lot of us say, is this it? Now, we know a lot is happening at midlife physiologically, socially, from a family perspective, from a community perspective. And so it's a natural time for many of us to take stock and think about where we are in the context of where we thought we would be and where we had hoped we would be. And midlife transitions aren't just about getting a new job, it's about rediscovering who you are. And as with any challenge, there are a number of barriers to that reinvention. There are a lot of fears out there that we don't talk about. And we're going to explore four of those core barriers that the studies have revealed. The first is financial fears. That's one of the most commonly cited determinants in not making a move. The second is imposter syndrome, something that a lot of people are very familiar with. The third, societal expectations. And then fourth, the lack of role models. It's interesting to note that 60% of women over 50 have considered a career pivot, yet only 25% have actually taken a leap. So when it comes to overcoming these obstacles, on the financial side, this is something that often is a considerable challenge for many women for a number of reasons. Certainly, we have gender pay discrepancies. Oftentimes, pivots in career may not necessarily be anticipated. So, circumstances in the workplace, in life circumstances, may be foisted upon us. And so we're forced to then deal with those circumstances. But if someone is contemplating a new change in direction, there are some things that can be addressed to help ease that situation. Strategic financial planning can be done. Working with someone who has a background in financial strategies can go a long way towards helping pave the way towards making that an easier change for someone. You can also consider a phased exit and a financial cushion in order to make these types of things a little bit easier. So, whether it's perhaps moving out in a part time manner or pursuing things in a piecemeal fashion, that can ease the financial challenges that may go along with making a career pivot. Our old friend imposter syndrome. This is something that we hear a lot about these days. It all comes down to that inner voice that we hear inside. Author, speaker, coach Tara Moore, in her book Playing Big, talks about this inner critical voice. And she addresses it in a way that encourages us to calm that voice because it's just one voice among a possibility of other voices and opinions. It doesn't mean that it's the voice of reason. It doesn't mean that it's the voice of correctness. It's just simply one opinion, one possibility that is trying to protect us. And so when we are able to disrupt that inner monologue, that negativity, that allows us to take a step back and examine it in a little bit of a different way with a little bit of distance. When we're able to do that, the idea of imposter syndrome can be put in its more proper place. For many of us, this idea of imposter syndrome is more something that's built up in our own minds rather than something that others think of us. And so when it comes to quieting that inner critic, remembering that transferable skills can be derived from the experience that we've all attained and gathered throughout a rich career experience. So things like leadership, time management, organization, people skills, these are all things that can serve us well as we move into a new direction. And these things can provide a strong foundation as we take on new challenges. And of course, mentorship and professional coaching can also provide additional structure and additional guidance for us as we move towards that new goal and that new direction. It's often said that women don't lack ambition, we lack permission. And by permission, we mean that internal speed bump that we often make up inside our minds. We have the power to remove that and ultimately speed us along the way towards that next exciting accomplishment. Societal expectations. It kind of goes hand in hand with the imposter syndrome. These are probably sentiments that we've all experienced before. You're being selfish. You have to put others first. What will everyone think? It's too late for me. I can't do this. These are all things that we've probably thought. Some of us in the last half hour, maybe. But again, this is the inner critic speaking to us. It's trying to protect us, maybe from failing, maybe from embarrassment. But again, that insular bubble that our inner critic is trying to create around us is also protecting us from taking a risk, doing something different, exciting, maybe creating a new vision of the future for us. So the tropes of the good girl, the people pleaser, the perfectionist, these are things that many of us grapple with, but they don't have to hold us hostage when it comes to creating a new future. The good news is that there are evolving social norms that are making these kinds of pivots, these kinds of changes, these kinds of awakenings at midlife a little bit more common, a little bit more accepted. Now, of course, societal expectations have built up over hundreds and hundreds of years. So we're not going to solve the problem with one slide on a PowerPoint. But the more that we have these conversations, the more that people talk about these struggles, the more that people share the stories of what people go through in order to take a risk and take a leap. That creates the environment for sharing those successes. And of course, one of the best ways to share those successes is by expanding our networks, communicating with others, creating community, and ultimately seeking support and validation from a supportive network of other women and other people who know you and care about you. Number 4, a lack of role models. And again, this flows nicely from the last obstacle. The visibility gap is very real for any underserved community. So it's very important that when people experience success, that we share that. We know as women, if we're successful, chances are we're not going to feel really comfortable about tooting our own horn. I'd like to see us get more used to doing that. But in the absence of that, or until we are a little bit more comfortable, let's share that success story with one another and spread that good news. And again, even if there are struggles or bumps along the road, that's okay, because that's reality and that's life. And that's what makes that success all the sweeter at the end of the day. So socializing, career changing, making those challenges known and shared not only gives all of us a role model to emulate, it also gives the next generation of women a role model. It gives the next generation of girls a role model to look up to. So, what is it that women really want in their second act? Again, not to generalize, but when it comes down to the studies that have been done, there are a number of key things that have all come together. Fulfillment. That is something that's commonly cited. If you're going to make a big change in your life, why not do it for something that makes you feel good about that? Flexibility and autonomy. People want control, determination over what they do. Impact, helping others. These are all themes that are repeated continually when women are interviewed. Alignment. So when people recognize the values that they have, they don't just want to write those values down on a piece of paper and stick it in a drawer. They want to live those values. They want to work with those values. They want to live in alignment with the values and purpose that they've identified. So that becomes very important for women as they are rediscovering themselves. Empowerment, peace, and ultimately purpose. Purpose is the through line through all of these things that women tell us that they want. So what else are women saying? 73% of women that were surveyed say that they're looking for greater fulfillment, a better work-life balance, and in fact, they're looking to escape unsupportive work environments. 1 in 3 women between the ages of 45 and 54 expect a significant career pivot before they retire. 8 in 10 women say that flexibility has become one of the most important aspects of taking on a new job. That is table stakes for them, much more so than a fancy title or a big office. They'd rather have flexibility. And 53% of women surveyed find their current job unfulfilling. So, what are these numbers telling us? These numbers are telling us that women generally are discontent with what they're doing. They're starting to recognize what it is that they want, and little by little, they're moving towards that ultimate goal. So, I want to explore a little bit about a topic called callings. A calling is something that is a purpose derived role. Now, many people, when you think of callings, they think in terms of spirituality or something very lofty. Um, but again, hearkening back to Tara Moore, she talks about callings in terms of work that is yours to do, work that you feel compelled to do. So, work that you feel compelled to do can be a career, a vocation, but it doesn't have to be. It can be philanthropic. It can be family based. It can be hobby based. It could be community based. So a calling doesn't necessarily mean that you have to completely wholesale change your life and change your job and completely change the direction of everything that you know and love right now. But if you listen to yourself carefully and really ask yourself the question about what it is that you are yearning for, you may be able to identify what your calling is. And it doesn't mean that we all have one singular calling throughout our lives. We could have a calling for right now, a calling that's right for us in this moment. In The Miracle Morning, the author talks about this idea of a calling for now. Your calling in 5 years from now might be different, but it's up to you to stay in touch with what's important to you. And so by following that calling and understanding your values and your purpose and living in alignment more with those, that helps you move in a more authentic direction. So again, it comes down to understanding and rediscovering who it is you are. So when I took my break, and after I took the time to just breathe, I asked myself what it is that I wanted. Because for so long, I never asked myself that question. Or the answer to that question was I wanted a day off. I wanted my phone to stop ringing. And so when I really took a step back and evaluated what was important to me, what were the values that I held, what were the things that were the biggest priorities for me, some of those things surprised me. And so the person that I was discovering in my 50s was a little bit of a surprise compared to the person that I thought I was in my 30s or even my 40s. And so as I went through that exercise, I worked to craft a path towards moving incrementally towards that person that I want to be every single day. Doesn't mean I always live up to it. Doesn't mean that I am always able to um, live in alignment every single day. But by incrementally taking steps, I'm able at the end of each day to reflect backwards and think about even the smallest of steps with satisfaction that I was able to make even a small impact. So, speaking of steps, what are women doing right now? So, based on some of the studies that were done on these women career changers, in order to write the next chapter, there are a number of things happening right now. Reskilling is probably the most common thing that happens. You need to learn some new things. And women are natural learners. So that is something that a lot of women are doing. And there are a number of different sources of learning, everything from YouTube to AI, to sites like Udemy, coming to conferences like this, where you can hear from a number of credentialed and experienced experts. You have an opportunity to expand your horizons and learn something new. Part of that also pertains to entrepreneurial exploration. Do a listening tour, set up time with people to be able to pick their brains, people you admire, people you know, people that you think might be a fascinating person to interview. So, by doing that and learning a little bit more about them, it may illuminate something for you that can uncover a potential new path. It may uncover some intel about the things that you like, that you are curious about, that maybe you don't like. But it's an opportunity to explore. So do yourself a favor and take advantage of that. Of course, financial strategizing. This is something that women are doing as well. And meeting with a financial advisor is a great first step. An initial consultation does not cost any money. And many women financial advisors are more than happy to consult with women to help them and guide them through their life challenges and life stages. Again, being in financial services for so long, I know many of them. So again, it's a great opportunity to think in terms of how to strategize for a potential future pivot. And then finally, community reinforcement, buoying up your network, your community, your cheerleaders, because any change like this does require some ups and downs, and you need to be resilient and have a good network around you to be able to weather those ups and downs. So when it comes to a call to purpose, when I work with women, one of the first questions I ask them is, what does fulfillment look like right now for you? And give yourself some space to answer that question. There are a number of different exercises that people can do to get your imaginations flowing. This is one example, the Stanford University Odyssey Plan. It comes down to imagining 3 different scenarios of your future. One of them, continuing in 5 years if you made no changes. One of them, if you completely changed everything and took a risk and did something completely different. And then the third is, what if money and other people's opinions did not factor in at all? And once you've done that, think about how you feel in each of those scenarios. That gives you some real insight into how you feel about the way you approach change. So when I work with women who express doubts and trepidation about pivoting or changing, I try to reassure them. I say, you're not behind. You're simply beginning the part of your life that's yours. And there are others who may be flippant and say midlife, that's all about having a midlife crisis. But midlife is not a crisis, it's a crossroads. When women step away from the striving and reclaim their ability to control their futures, they don't just make a change from a job, they're able to have agency over their successful futures. So I encourage folks to cross boldly. So if any of you are interested in learning more, this is a link to my website, Lightbulb Moments. We work with women to do a lot of what we just talked about, as well as young people to map out their career, as well as businesses to talk about growth with heart. I would love to continue the conversation further. And with that, I want to thank you very much for your kind attention today. And I look forward and encourage you all to shine brightly. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Jennifer. Thank you so much for your valuable time. Uh, and we got a few questions from our audience, Jennifer.
Cool.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
I
Thank
want,
you very much.
yeah, I want to ask you one of them.
Yes.
What stories have we internalized about success and work by midlife?
That is an excellent question. There are so many stories, I think, that women have taken on and internalized about what we can't do. And I think that we put up a lot of artificial barriers around that. A lot of it is sort of internally limited with self-limiting beliefs. So again, there are a lot of things around the inability to take a risk. There are a lot of stories that women tell themselves about the inability to wing it, to try new things, to take a leap without being fully prepared. There's the old trope about women not applying for the job unless they have all the skills, but there is truth to that, because there is something to be said for going from a place of expertise to novice, and that taps into a bit of insecurity for a lot of people. But I think that there are far too many people that limit themselves and prevent themselves from taking a leap and trying something new because they feel like they're not fully prepared. And so there are a lot of things out there and a lot of things that women do to hide from kind of living their best life and playing big. So, there are things like over preparing, over educating, over detailing, when in some ways just going for it and trying something may actually teach you a lot more than taking that fifth class on the topic. So again, trying to encourage women to take calculated risks can be a way to free yourself to experiment and who knows, maybe even succeed in a way that we never imagined before.
Thank you so much for your answer, Jennifer. We thoroughly enjoyed your session. Thank you so much for your valuable time. Be on the
Thank you so
backstage
much.
and please join the next session, Jennifer.
Great. Wonderful.
Bye bye.